All right, today we're going to pry open the writer's toolbox. You know, every story that's ever grabbed you, every book you just couldn't put down, well, it wasn't built by magic. Nope, it was constructed piece by piece. So let's take a look at the actual tools that brought it to life.
So, have you ever wondered what exactly makes a story unforgettable? Why do some tales stick with us for years while others just fade away? Well, spoiler alert, it's not magic. It's a craft. The secret is knowing which tools to use and when to use them, whether you're building a heart-pounding plot or just trying to get a character's voice exactly right.
So let's dive in. Think of our toolbox as having 4 main trays. First up, we're going to look at the story's blueprint, the basic structure of fiction. Then we'll get into bringing characters to life. After that, we'll explore the world of prose. And finally, we'll see how writers use their tools to capture reality itself. Okay, this first tray holds the heavy-duty equipment. We're talking about the story's blueprint. Before you can even think about paint colors or decorations, you need a solid foundation, right? You need those structural beams, and that's exactly what we're talking about here, the core architecture of a narrative. Let's start with a really specific format, the short story. Think of it as a literary sprint, not a marathon. Its real power comes from its intense focus. The goal isn't to tell an entire life story, but to land one single, powerful emotional punch in just a few pages. It's all about getting the maximum impact with the minimum number of words.
And every building needs a blueprint. In writing, that's the plot. It's the difference between saying, a king died and then a queen died, and saying, a king died and then a queen died of grief. See the difference? The first one is just a list of things that happened, but the second one, that's a plot. It's that because of this, that happened chain that gives a story its momentum and its meaning.
And this classic 5-stage structure is basically the emotional roller coaster we go on as readers. We start with the exposition. That's where we meet everyone and figure out where we are. Then, the rising action kicks in, introducing conflict and just ratcheting up that tension until, bam, we hit the climax, the breaking point. From there, the falling action is all about sorting through the wreckage, which leads us finally to the resolution, where a new normal is established. Seriously, pretty much every great story follows this arc in some way.
So, a blueprint is kind of useless without anyone to live in the house, right? A story structure is just an empty building until some characters move in. So, for our second section, let's open the next tray and look at the tools writers use for characterization, the real art of making fictional people feel, well, real.
And that brings us to characterization. It's this delicate art of sculpting a person out of nothing but words. And it's so much more than just giving them a name and a description. It's the sum of their little quirks, their hidden fears, the specific way they talk, and especially the choices they make when they're under pressure. It's basically everything the writer does to make us believe in them. Now, writers have 2 main tools for this. First, there's direct characterization, where they just tell us what a character is like. She was brave. Simple enough. But then there's the much more powerful tool, indirect characterization, where they show us. We don't need to be told she's brave when we see her run into a burning building, right? The second method really trusts the reader, and it's almost always way more compelling.
Next up in our kit is the narrative technique. Okay, think of this as the camera lens for the story. Who is holding the camera and where are they pointing it? The choice of who tells the story and from what perspective is one of the biggest decisions a writer makes, and it completely colors everything we see. And the options create wildly different experiences for us. First person, using I, puts you right inside a character's head. Third person, he or she, gives you a little more distance. An omniscient narrator is like this all-seeing eye, able to dip into anyone's thoughts at any time. And then you've got stream of consciousness, which basically throws grammar out the window to give you the raw, chaotic, unfiltered feed of a character's mind. Each one creates a totally unique bond between the story and the reader. All right, let's shift gears a bit. The tools for plot and character are absolutely crucial for fiction, but what about writing that's based in reality? Our third section looks at the tools used for nonfiction, which, believe it or not, are built from the exact same raw material as any great novel.
And that raw material is called prose. It's a really simple concept, actually. It's just ordinary language. Unlike poetry, there's no meter, no rhyme scheme. It's the grammatical, flowing language of conversation, of news articles, of emails. Heck, it's the language I'm using right now. It is the absolute bedrock of pretty much all modern writing.
So a classic use of prose is the autobiography. The formula is simple. It's the story of a life told by the person who actually lived it. The writer is both the subject and the narrator.
It's all built on that foundation of I, and it draws its power from the intimacy of personal memory.
It's a simple question, right? But it leads us to a completely different tool in our kit.
The biography. So if an autobiography is a self-portrait, a biography is a portrait painted by somebody else. The writer becomes a detective, piecing together a life from old letters, interviews, and historical records. The goal here is objectivity, to tell a factual story from an external third-person point of view.
Okay, in our final tray, we find tools designed specifically for writing from reality. These forms aren't about inventing whole new worlds, but about interpreting our own world through essays, personal experiences, and just really sharp observations.
Take the travelogue, for instance. It's so much more than just a guidebook. A great travel writer doesn't just tell you how tall the Eiffel Tower is. They tell you how it felt to see it for the very first time. They act as our personal guide, blending the objective facts with their own subjective personal experience.
And finally, we have the super versatile essay, which really comes in two main flavors. You've got the formal essay, which is a work of logic. It's objective, fact-based, and built to persuade you with an argument. Then you have the personal essay, which is all about subjectivity. It's informal, opinion-driven, and it basically invites you into the writer's own mind. You could say one builds a case in a courtroom, the other has a conversation with you over coffee.
So, after all this, why do these tools actually matter? Well, because understanding them completely changes how we read. You no longer just experience a story. You start to see the architecture underneath it all. You see how the plot is manipulating tension, how characterization is forging an emotional connection with you, and how the choice of narrator is framing your entire reality. These are the mechanics of empathy and engagement.
So, we've unpacked the toolbox. We've examined the craft behind the art. You have the blueprints now. The only question left is, what kind of story are you gonna build? Thanks for joining me.